let's talk about discussions, okay? From the courses drop-down, what we're talking about is add materials, add discussion, or if you want to use that shortcut we talked about earlier, click the green dotted line and add a discussion, okay? That's what we're talking about here. And this is what a completed discussion looks like. It's a threaded conversation where students can collaborate, they can talk to each other, they can debate things online. Now, many of you may have already experimented with discussions. Some basic ideas, just post in the questions area. How do you think students engage differently in an online discussion setting? Because this shouldn't just be a matter of convenience when we get into discussions. It should really have an instructional impact. There should be a reason why we put things online that go beyond simple convenience. So I see many people saying what I often hear in whenever I teach discussions, saying that once they started using online discussions, they started hearing a lot more from their shy students, that their shy students really started opening up, and they were able to hear everyone in their class equally. If you have 30 students in your class, well, if you're asking everyone to raise their hands, you're really only getting to maybe 4 students. And online, you can hear from everyone equally. It's a really different opportunity you're giving students. So jumping into discussions, again, clicking that green dotted line, add discussion, title and description. The description is really the instructions that students should follow in the discussion. Notice we have the same icons down here. You can attach files and links if there are items you want students to review. You can jump into your Dropbox, add something from there. Okay. Here's some key concepts, things that will really take you to the next level in Schoology. Notice in discussions, there is a due date option. What this does, it actually puts this on the student's calendar, okay? So they will see all of the things that are due from all of their teachers. If there are other teachers in your school using Schoology, they will see everything coming up at once in that upcoming area. It really makes a huge difference. Whenever we hear of sessions where students, some places we've worked with have had learners give feedback to the instructors on what they want them to do differently in Schoology, and hands down they all say, please put due dates on everything, because it's how we manage all of the work coming at us from all the different teachers. Key concept. The other key concept, we're going to talk a little about this more when we get to the grading section, but the difference between a really academically rigorous discussion and just brainstorming is grading. Schoology discussions can be graded. To do that, you need to select that Enable Grading checkbox. And then under the category, by default, this is going to say ungraded, which means that it won't actually show up in the gradebook. The students won't see their score. Add a category here, because this is actually your gradebook category. It goes beyond just organization. So if you are counting Schoology discussions as class participation, pop that in there, and that will really connect the dots. That is the biggest thing that I find basic users who haven't had training are missing, that they don't understand why things aren't showing up in their gradebook, and that's usually why, because there's not a category in the gradebook yet. So as you're getting started with school, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere or if you're already in the thick of it, think about discussions that would work well. Think about discussions that where debate is necessary, that could work well as homework if students have devices at home, that work well for these different activities. If you need some ideas, again, resources, that's the digital filing cabinet in Schoology. Notice there is a public resources option. This is a place where Schoology educators have added all sorts of ideas. If you go to the public resources and search icebreakers, these are great discussion prompts that we've added specifically for this session that you can download into your course and use. Search for icebreakers, click the download button, When you go back into your personal resources, you'll see a downloads area. And from there, you'll see all those discussions and you can add them directly to your course. And by the way, this idea of going into your resources and adding things to your course, that's a foundational skill. And once you start learning how to do this, you really become a Schoology power user. That relationship between resources and courses, that takes you to the next level. You'll impress lots of people at parties, for instance, when you talk about this, by the way.
Definitely.
I always use this whenever I go out. Whenever I go out. Okay, so I know that there are a few questions, so let's just skip. We're going to talk about these best practices, but of the discussions you're seeing, let's tie them to best practices here.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I'm seeing in the Q&A session over here on my screen, it's one of those times when I really wish everyone could actually be in a discussion to talk about how they use discussions. Sure. Because there's a lot of good ideas being thrown out there right now. People use them in different ways, whether it's sort of similar to how we're using the Q&A option right now. Mm-hmm. During a lecture, students, rather than raising their hand, can post their questions and then save it to the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you can ask students to reflect on reading, and that gives them more time to really reflect and think through their answers before they participate. So there's a lot going on with discussions.
If anyone is familiar with Doug Lemov, great book, Teach Like a Champion, many teachers use a technique from that book, or maybe they got in another place. They call it a parking lot. In the non-digital world, they have students write questions on Post-it notes during a lecture and leave them with the teacher afterwards. Yeah. And then the next day, the teacher reviews them and starts off the class going through all their questions. Well, just do that in a Schoology discussion. Your students can type those questions instead, and then the teacher can immediately go through them at the end of the lecture all at once instead of being interrupted or being pulled to a different topic.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have to replace an in-class discussion or your in-class activity. It's a really nice supplement. It sort of complements what you're doing in the classroom or for homework, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Great. So what of all the different scenarios we just went over, let's post this poll and so we can share with you all the different types of discussions you're thinking of doing. And then we'll share the results so everyone on this call can get a sense of how their colleagues out in the world are planning to use discussions, whether in primary, secondary, post-secondary, or in corporate training. You can use these in all those scenarios. But instructionally, how are you going to use them? We are really split here. Brainstorming, peer review, responding to a video or document, debate analysis. This idea of responding to a video or document was the most popular when we did this session last week as well. So let's actually use this as a springboard and talk about how you would specifically respond to a video, because there's some really nice things you can do there.